Welcome everyone. My name is Wasim Khan. I am the Strategic Alliance Director for the Department of Security and Crime Science. I also help run our Center for Doctoral Training, and I shall lead you to the first part of this evening's presentation. Now, I know that the bulk of you are beaming in from online, but you can ask questions in the chat, and we'll have questions at the end after the series of presentations. Okay, so a little bit about who we are and UCL. For those of you who don't know, UCL is of course one of the world's best universities, and you can see from this slide that the faculty that we're in, engineering sciences, is part of a range of faculties, but we also are recognized, as you can see from these various rankings, as not only one of the best universities in the world, but one of the best engineering faculties in the world. The Department of Security and Crime Science. So crime science is a slightly different way of approaching the business of preventing and reducing crime. So traditional criminology looks at behavior and social patterns, and that's all great. But what we do as a department is we presuppose that crime events will occur, and then we try and bring together lots of different science disciplines to work out how we can best prevent, mitigate, reduce, and respond to those crime events. And we began life as the Jill Dando Institute of Security and Crime Science following the death of this British presenter, crime presenter on TV, Jill Dando. She was murdered. Until today, her murder is unsolved. And after this, a lot of money was raised, given to UCL, and which we used to create our institute. And in the years since, we have graduated to become a department. And we have many research centers: Center for Forensic Sciences, Center for Future Crime, looking at emerging crime types, such as, for instance, artificial intelligence and how criminals are using that. And the most important one is the one at the bottom, which is the one that we'll be talking about today, which is the Center for Doctoral Training in Security Science. And the acronym that we use for that is UCL Secret. And all that really means is that our PhDs, whatever their subject, whatever their topic, they all join and they become part of this Center for Doctoral Training. Okay, so I've talked to you a little bit about what makes crime science different, but these points here are just reinforcing that. And I'll just mention the one at the bottom. We spend a lot of our effort and energy working with practitioners, policymakers, industry, police, law enforcement. That's one of the USPs of our department and all of our teaching programs, whether they're master's programs or PhD programs, because all of our energies are about making an impact in the real world. And you cannot do that unless you're working closely with the Home Office, as we do, with law enforcement, with police services, et cetera, et cetera. So that, I think, I want you to keep that in your minds, that is one of the main reasons that people come and want to do courses and research with us. The vision is this: we want to train a whole raft of people who can go on to become leaders in this space, looking at the way that we can integrate different disciplines into approaching security and crime problems. And where do we find our students? Well, we do, of course, being one of the world's best universities, recruit for academic excellence. That goes without saying. We also tend to recruit across disciplines. So our students over the years have come from all sorts of backgrounds. We've had students who've come in with language as a background and then gone on to do brilliant crime and security PhDs. We've got, hard science students, for want of a better word, chemistry, physics, all that kind of stuff. So the background isn't important. What's important is academic excellence and a desire to want to work in this area. As I said, we have a real focus on wider skills. And that little map shows you just some of the regions. It's a bit out of date now, but we literally have had students from all around the world doing PhDs with us. What are our research areas? Well, I won't read through all of these, but as you can see, we have a wide spread of topics that we supervise and are interested in, and which our partners in the public sector and private industry are interested in. So all the way from analyzing, using data, security and crime issues, looking at the way that security is designed, technology that's being used in security, increasingly important in a in a futuristic world. Forensic sciences, a whole range of forensic sciences, and most importantly, how forensic sciences interpreted after we find the trace evidence, which is something that's often neglected, but we have one of the world's best centers, best recognized centers in that space. And of course, I mentioned future crime, which is one of our fastest growing areas of research for obvious reasons. Huge amount of interest from police forces and law enforcement around the world as they try and tackle issues such as how artificial intelligence is changing the map of crime, cryptocurrency and crime, cybercrime, which we all know is now one of the world's biggest crime types, etc., etc. So the message is that we are willing to supervise a very wide range of PhDs. Now, I mentioned the fact that all of our PhDs, when they enroll, they become part of this Center for Doctoral Training in Security Science, UCL Secret. So just keep UCL Secret in your mind. It's just an acronym, a short form that we use to describe this. There are two ways that you can join our PhD program. We call them Route A and Route B for simplicity. So Route A involves a 4-year PhD. The first year will be a MRes, a Masters of Research. So it's a master's level program. And after that, then you embark on your 3 years of your full PhD. And our experience over the years shows that it is a much richer, fuller PhD, and you will hear from some students and ex-students later on about the benefits of that. And that first year gives you that foundation. What do we mean by crime science? What do we mean when we talk about developing an ambitious PhD proposal? And then we also teach you some of the skills that are necessary to carry out a PhD. And that first year, I can't stress, is very much about us teaching you some skills, but also allowing you the time to decide how to mold the idea that you've originally had, the reason that you've applied for the PhD, into something that is going to be a PhD that will have some real world impact, hopefully. Then and then we move on. We also asked you to do these compulsory modules in year one, foundational modules for crime science, but also teaching you how PhD research actually takes place and what's involved in that. And then, of course, there are a whole range of optional modules from across UCL. That's one of the benefits of doing a PhD with us, which is that we have access to modules that might be of interest to you from across lots of different departments. And, you know, whatever your interest might be, there's no doubt going to be a module that you can find, and we allow you to do that as part of your PhD program. So by the end of that first year, you reach a progression point. So you'll hopefully pass your MRes, and then you'll have an MRes to show for your trouble so far, and then you progress to the next year. And of course, as part of the program, we do ask you to do various group activities, because the one thing I can tell you is, and this is based on, you know, many graduates from our PhD program over the last 15 odd years, is that when they go into a real working environment, they have to work in teams, and they often have to work across multidisciplines, people who've got different skill sets and different backgrounds and we try and teach you that by forcing isn't the right word, encouraging you, / forcing you to do these kind of group activities. Year two is all about research, about prepping you for the research. So, you know, we teach you all of these specialist skills for how to carry out research, doing research in the field, etc. And by the end of that year two, you have what is known as an upgrade, which means that we feel that you are now ready to go to the final 2 years of your PhD. So you do have to put some effort in during this year to be able to pass that upgrade point. And then you go into the proper research period, where you might be out doing some experiments, you might be in the field, you might be collecting data, and you're basically then analyzing all of that in tune with whatever your topic happens to be. During this third year, we also encourage you to spend some time in industry or public sector doing an internship. And, you know, the bulk of our students do end up doing this. I should be clear, we don't find the internship for you. We have lots of partners who've worked with us in the past with our students. We don't pay for you to do an internship. So this is something we give you lots of advice about. What we strongly encourage you to do, but we do expect you to do the groundwork. So often what will happen is a student, after a couple of years, will say on a topic, we'll talk to his supervisor and say, look, there's this company which you've worked with in the past, or is very much in our field. I'd like to spend 2 or 3 months. Can you help me send out an email to try and encourage them to allow me in to do something? So we will help manage that process, but we won't go out and find and give you an internship. So it's important that you realize that. But as I said, the vast bulk of our students have had no problems over the last 15 years in managing to find these kind of opportunities. And partly that's because of the reputation of our center. So it's another benefit of doing your PhD through us. And then, of course, the final year, which is about finishing your project, writing it up, then hopefully disseminating that work, going to conferences and events and talking to people, doing some public engagement, submitting your thesis, and then you have what is called a PhD viva, which just means that you are in front of a panel of very scary academics. No, they're all lovely, really, who then judge whether or not your PhD has passed the aims and objectives that it originally set out to do. And then you become a doctor. Now, route B, so I mentioned that there's 2 ways of doing this PhD. So that route was the 4-year program, which has a MRes at the beginning. The second route is to not do that first year, not do the MRes, and just launch straight into a 3-year PhD. But as I said, we strongly urge, if you can, to do the 4-year one, because you have that extra year. But if you don't want to do that, you can just launch into your PhD, although we still expect you to take this module, this foundations module, and one optional module. They won't be assessed in this case. Okay, so a quick mention before I move on for another Center for Doctoral Training, which might be of interest to some of you, which our department also co-manages, along with the Departments of Computer Science and the Department of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Public Policy. And that is the Center for Doctoral Training in Cybersecurity. And well, it does what it says on the tin. It's very much focused on purely cybersecurity and cybercrime PhDs. Our CDT in security science is much wider than that, as I showed you. But this one, if you're very focused and you want to do a cybersecurity one in a very focused manner, then this might be the one for you. This one does not have a 3-year option. It's purely a 4-year integrated program. And they don't award you an MRes. So you do the MRes, but you don't get the MRes award, whereas we do give you that. Okay, so how do you apply? It is quite tricky. It's a difficult course to get onto because of how popular it is, and because we're very rigid in our criteria. And we do try and select the very best students who want to work in this field. Who should apply? So a minimum we expect is 2.1, but as I said, there's a wide range of subjects that you can come in on this with, and social sciences are also part of that mix. How to apply? So key here is that we would expect you to do some research to look at the kind of topic that you're interested in and try and find academics here who might supervise you, either in our department, and maybe you also want somebody from another department if you're doing a very cross-disciplinary PhD. And then we want you to name those on your application form, because ultimately they will be the people who would be interviewing you at a later stage, and they will be assessing your application. Okay, so everything is done online until an interview stage, which can be via an online framework like Teams, or it might be at UCL. Okay, and then ultimately we make an offer, or we don't make an offer. And people want to know about when they can start. Most of our PhDs, especially Route A, which is the MRes route, will start in September. Occasionally, some PhDs can start in January, but that's the rarity. But we don't stop you from doing that if you want to do that, but that would mean doing a 3-year PhD. So one of the questions that we always get is, what should we write in that personal statement? So I can tell you what you shouldn't write, and that is just rehashing your academic background, because you mentioned that elsewhere. What we're looking for are the answers to these 4 questions. So we want to see that you've made some effort to understand the area that you want to do a PhD in. So how would your research then fit into our department's programs and our objectives? So academics are lovely, but they're also very busy and very selfish people. And I mean selfish in a nice way, in that they are very focused on their area of research. So if you want a particular academic to supervise your PhD, you have to make sure that your personal statement tells them something about why you would be a brilliant student to do that particular PhD. So maybe show some knowledge of their work, of that area. Describe to them how you think that your research, your PhD, might have some impact in the real world in that area. And then tell them why you would be the right person, why you would be brilliant at doing that PhD, instead of maybe the next person. And also, it doesn't hurt to mention why you think that your PhD would be quite interdisciplinary, because we love that, UCL loves that, and we know that when you go out into the real world, as I've mentioned before, that interdisciplinarity is incredibly important in working environments. So if you can answer these 4 questions brilliantly, then you are more than likely going to attract the attention of the supervisor and academic that you want for your PhD. Course fees, there's not really much for me to say because this is just a matter of fact. This is what the course costs. Funding mechanisms. So we don't have any scholarships within the department this particular year. So what we can do is only guide you towards government and academic scholarships. Many people come into our program with scholarships from their home countries, from their governments. Many people come into our program self-funding, through self-funding routes. And when you look at some of these government scholarships, there are ways to find them. You can go on to, if you're onto the British Council website, for example. We've had people who've come from China who have Chinese Scholarship Council. We've had lots of students from Mexico who have that particular scholarship. So it's really a case of looking early enough and widely enough to try and find sources of funding. So I won't pretend that it's easy, or that it's bonanza time at the moment to try and find funding, but it is important that if you want funding for your activities, that you do look early. And UCL, of course, does have some. They are very competitive, but it's always worth applying for. And with self-funding, we always ask you to think beyond your first year, because you want to make sure that you've got enough resources to do the other years as well as that first year. Just to look at some of the projects that have been going on, PhD projects over the last few years. So a wide range, very, very topical, as you can see, some of them, money laundering and terrorist financing, huge topic for law enforcement across the world. Brexit, which was obviously a big thing that happened in the UK, and we've got somebody looking at that. Drugs and social media, just in general, we have a number of PhDs looking at social media and how that's influencing crime. Smart cities, the world is changing, becoming, we have more and more sensors and tech embedded into our lives, into our cities, into our day-to-day lives. So we have several PhDs looking at that kind of issue. And then we've got the intersection of this changing world, changing technologies, and traditional forms of crime. So how is, for instance, human trafficking changing with the use of technology by criminals? Very, very interesting, topical, real-world PhDs that our students not only, we are excited when students want to do those kind of topics, but our partners in law enforcement, they are terribly excited, because the truth is that the vast majority of law enforcement around the world is maybe 10, 15 years behind organized criminals who have lots of money to spend, who can hire bright young people who understand how this new tech is working, whereas the police forces have to get that money and then they have to retrain. So when they can come to us and see PhDs are working on this, it's really great for the student, it's really great for us, and it's really great for them. Another reason to work with us. So I'm going to pretty much finish now. There's the link to apply, but you can find it on our website as well. I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Enrico Maraconti, who has quite a lot to say about his own experience.
So, hello everyone, I'm Dr. Enrico Maraconti. I am I'm Dr. Enrico Maraconti. I am the Deputy Graduate Tutor here in the department. So together with Professor Noemi Buana, we are the ones who handle all the threads basically of interactions between students and UCL in case there is any issue. So supervision is straightly with your PhD supervisors, but in case there's any bureaucratic issue, anything you don't want your PhD supervisor to be involved in for any reason, because it may not be strictly related, for instance, to research, for instance, we are the people to go to. And actually we give induction on that. But for this reason, I'm here talking today. Later on, you will also hear from one former student of ours and one current student of ours. So the topic I'll be talking about is what's going to happen next and what you are acquiring in these years. So in these years, you are more than likely to have access to the data you need. We actually have facilities that allow us to interact and have contracts in place with law enforcement for having their data, facilities that almost no one has in the UK. And I'm not even just talking about universities, I'm talking about companies. We have a secure data lab with where you can get in only by having security vetting. So that actually has been certified as a metropolitan police, same level of security as a metropolitan police station. Metropolitan police station people have told us it actually is more secure, but that's another story. But it's actually important because that means that we are able to acquire important data from very important stakeholders in crime. Action fraud, for instance, NCA. NCA doesn't bring data that easily out of the US. However, we have data from the US as well in some fields, like forensic science people have from data from New Mexico, for instance. So accessing labs, you're part of UCL as well. So that means accessing training facilities, training opportunities, for any type of situation. I know people who actually, during their PhD, have decided also to study a new language by using courses at UCL. So, bit of everything. But also, I think it's even more important when we focus on our area of work that you are able to build a professional network, having those type of opportunities, as Vaz was mentioning earlier, of internships, where you can actually talk to stakeholders that may actually see already how you work and may be interested in keeping talking to you. Developing innovative ideas. I would like to pose the accent on something. The motto for the engineering department is change the world. The idea of having ambitious goals to change the world. And we do that in trying to change the world against crime. The works from people in our department like Professor Shane Johnson, Professor Kate Bowers, who is the head of the department at the moment, on burglaries have changed the words from the 2000s onwards. The works that we are doing on crime online are actually affecting how cyber criminals work because of how we have been able to counter that. Change the world. Let's be ambitious. Let's try and do these things. Obviously, there's something about obtaining funding. Let's talk about it. There's other sources as well, with some funding bodies that allow people to apply for these opportunities. My suggestion is also to talk with people you believe could be good supervisors, because that may give you hints on where to look at. And otherwise, as Baz mentioned, don't just focus on the first year, but plan ahead in case of self-funding PhD, because it may be actually challenging otherwise on the finance point of view. Unfortunately, this year has been a bit of a transition year on that point of view. Make friends. We'll talk about it with the student experiences later, but it's important for students to have that type of relationship that is not just about the research, the work, because PhDs can be intense, and you want to have that kind of safety net of people you meet in the department, in UCL, maybe even through sports. Careers prospects. To give you a bit more of an idea of situations, we have had people going straight into junior or senior management jobs. One person that started the PhD back in 2013, I know he's head of the data science in a firm company that does insurance type of aspects related to crime, this company. Just to give you an idea, that's already a quite strong management job that he got after the PhD. But that's not the only one. We can see in cybersecurity, we have had people actually that didn't start immediately on the cybersecurity side, started developing, thanks also to the courses, their idea also on the cybersecurity side. Social services, NGOs, we have had plenty of people working there. A person recently graduated, doing a lot of work on NGOs as well during their PhD, and is keeping this type of work there. Think tank researchers, person who started back in 2014, their route a PhD, is actually in a think tank since he finished. Data specialists and analysts in multiple sectors. I could go on and on because with my role of DGT, I actually have the opportunity to chat a lot with the students and knowing their next steps. There's a person who went to PlayStation, for instance, Sony, for all the information security side. Others who went to other places, including police and law enforcement. So in terms of destinations, I've already mentioned some of them. A lot of those are related to police, but not only: consultancy, security services, intelligence, financial organizations, also some people in the academic sectors, not necessarily with us. They may have decided to go elsewhere. Some of us actually, some of the people that did the PhD here with us have stayed with us. That I think is also quite a testament of not only the flexibility that is allowed by working with us, but also that the environment is something constructive that people like if they want actually to stay with us as well. In terms of career support, there's actually a full career team from the faculty and one from Central UCL that give a lot of important information for the following parts of the PhD. We have actually the website with the QR code. They give you a lot of suggestions, especially when you're going towards the end of the PhD, so that you can actually review properly your CV, the letters, the cover letters and applications. One thing we always say, and I would say it even when applying for PhDs in general, is customize what you're looking for when you write the CV, when you write the motivation letter. You want to show the person you really care about what you're doing. And that's not done by simply saying, okay, the CV is updated. No, you need to do that type of work, that extra bit that allows the person to see the effort. Because it looks like if you are doing a motivational letter, personal letter, it's what, 500, 600 words, it may not look much. There's a lot of things that can be read. But as well, as much as Vaz said, thanks for telling me I'm selfish, by the way, but it's true that sometimes we don't have like the immediate thing of saying, I'm gonna look word by word. So you want to captivate that type of interaction. And that applies to us applying to the PhD as much as applying after the PhD. At that point, you will have a supervisor for 3 years. You will have an interaction with someone that will allow you to feel you can talk with them about these things and get suggestions. One thing I say when prospective students contact me and we may have a chat is actually, you're gonna talk with this person, whether it's me or someone else, depending on who you prefer, for 3 years. If you don't feel that's the right person for you, you don't want to talk with that person one-to-one for 3 years. But at the same time, at that point, they will become something important for you for the choices of your careers, to have suggestions, a mentor that can guide you in thinking about your next steps and what you really want. In terms of skills, there's a lot of skills that are actually extremely interesting. UCL gives you courses to implement, to improve in your skills that are not necessarily strictly related to what it means doing a PhD. I mean, yes, public speaking, it's crucial in a PhD. Although it may not be about writing the paper, about doing research itself, it's crucial when you work in a PhD. However, introduction to mindfulness. Why is it important? Because, well, when you literally hit your head constantly on a wall because something is not going as you want in your research, you need to have that opportunity to step back, reset, restart. So sometimes even introduction to mindfulness could be one of the things you're looking for in order to get. And being at UCL means you have the opportunity to get all these type of courses. As I said, people who decided to learn languages, people who decided, I really want to go into academia, but I feel my teaching skills need to be improved, and they followed courses to improve that, or even not academia, but still teaching-related jobs. Writing and giving conference papers, presentations are the bread and butter for several parts of the PhD. And sometimes confidence is not there. You want to try it. You want to have an idea of what works. Writing for the media. There's several opportunities. If inside UCL, some of them, as there is a UCL journal, as well as many research groups have blogs where many people outside UCL look at what is published. But even writing for the media, as of writing articles or being interviewed by the media. That happened to several of us during our PhDs and all of that. Creative thinking. Sometimes you need that kind of jump that is not done just by rational thinking, but you need that jump in your research. So having courses like that are great opportunities. In terms of community, these are a few pictures from different opportunities we have had. We have the annual International Crime Science Conference. I can't stress how crucial that is. Even more, we are the 6th, if I remember well, edition coming up very early of the Women in Security and Crime and Forensic Science Conference. That even more, considering that STEM as type of discipline has been something male-dominated. So it's really important that we give space to women to explain, to show their qualities and all of that. It has been organized almost exclusively by women. I contributed to the first organization. I was happy to say that I was the only man contributing that year, because it's important actually to give space to people that are underrepresented in our fields. In this case, we're talking about women, but not only we have many cases. We have presentations from industry leaders. It's always important. We have already showed it. We have a lot of interactions with alumni, with industry leaders, with police forces, because we have a lot of links, luckily, and interactions with them throughout. We have field trips as well. It's always important to stay in touch. We have also poster presentations, other events, actually show how our research pans out. Prizes, this is actually from our undergrads, but it was everyone was participating in this bit here. And we have a lot of different channels where you can see different things, and these links are to our link tree that has the list of all the useful links. So actually a pretty useful QR code that we should put back on after all the presentations are done, so that you can actually access it more easily. Now, as I said, we actually have 2 students, well, one former student, one current student here today. The first one is the former student who did his PhD here. Actually, I'm changing my hat. It's me. I did my PhD here back in the years. So now I am a lecturer here. I am the DGT. But back in the years, I was actually a PhD student who went through route A. The next one will actually tell you about their experience on route B as current student in the department. So yeah, I'm talking about my experience. I want to give you a bit of the passion of what happened in those years. So what happened when I had those years from Mr. to Doctor, let's say. So I decided to talk about it as my work was a lot on PhD journey in malware detection and malicious behavior detection online. And it's not a simple path. So I decided to use exactly that reference from the Lord of the Rings to represent that. But also, and something I will reiterate on that, if there's an at all, it's not something I've done alone. When we talked about making friends, when we talked about that, there's a lot into this. So a bit about myself. I studied with an undergrad in telecommunication engineering in my hometown, Genova, in Italy, and an MSc there of 2 years. And then I moved to UCL in 2014 for the Route A MRes plus PhD that ended early 2019, although I submitted in end of 2018, basically. So what about my path here? Well, it started in 2014 with a conference and the first lectures in September, got to the point of the MRes dissertation, and I marked the upgrade there during the third year because there's a bit of a range of months. But I had the end of my second year. This was working on my first projects and setting up all the things for the following ones. Then did my upgrade. I had the opportunity to go to Barcelona for 3 months in a secondment in Telefónica, the main TLC telecommunication entity, basically institution in Spain, and worked 3 months with their research group. Finished the third year, kept doing research till September 2018, end of my fourth year. And in a few months, there was all the submission and PhD viva that Vaz talked about with 2 very, very scary academics in front of me, with whom I talked for almost 3 hours. So that was my path, my 4 years. Starting from the MRes year, if I have to say my MRes year in one word, and the only one, who?
Full of.
Exactly. Full of opportunities, events, exams. There's not only those sides, challenges, ideas, deadlines, but also new friends, new people. So there's a mix of a lot of things that you can see both as a student in the traditional aspect, as well as a research student meeting people, starting developing their ideas for research. The MRes gives you that opportunity. In terms of research areas then, what was I working on? I barely mentioned that. Well, it was in the cyber world an intersection from all the technical computer science aspects, but also psychological, legal, economical aspects, because nowadays the cyber world is really intertwined. One thing I say when I teach my students, and some of them are on the call on Zoom, I've seen, is we often talk about real versus cyber. It's not true. We can talk about physical versus cyber because it's all real. There's nothing non-real. That kind of barrier is absent. And when we talked about interdisciplinarity, that's a lot of subjects. Oh wait, statistics to model all those subjects together kick in as well. So a lot of things. How can we translate that in a title? Application of statistics to detect malicious behavior on the network. Wait, what? That's a bit too much technical words. Let's break it down. If instead of application, we just talk about practical tools. Think when Vaz was mentioning impact. Practical tools that detect patterns, use patterns in cybersecurity against the crime that happens there on the internet. Much simpler than what I said before, right? But the meaning is exactly the same. Okay, quick example. We take a pub. We have our security guards all around, 2 on the entrance. We have our good people that are just enjoying pints. We have a couple of bad actors. Well, in a situation like this one, it's not too complicated for the guards to see suspicious behavior. There's not many people. The idea of the statistics in my field that makes it with this kind of example is when we are in this type of situation, where yes, we have the guards, but we have so many people around that it makes it much more complicated to single out the bad actors there. So you need some sort of help. So why did I choose secret? Well, before I was like, I will increase my technical skills. It's always good. I will learn about crimes. I am a crime TV series fan, so always pretty useful. I will do proper research in a challenging environment. I like challenges. And I will enrich my CV with publications. At the end, I will have a PhD at UCL if they don't kick me out. You know, the imposter syndrome type of aspect is carried on for quite a lot of the PhD, maybe. So, okay, let's go back to words to describe the PhD journey. Swear words, yeah, a lot of them. And then you say, okay, I recovered, I'm writing things, doing stuff. For instance, I'm writing code because mine was a lot with computer science things. What happens? Codes have bugs and they don't work as you want. What's the result of that? More swear words. And then you finally finish your project, your pride. You have done it, you submit it. You're like, oh, now all the world is gonna claim that I'm a great researcher. And then you find out the reviewer choose never like your work and will find ways to criticize it. So you can guess what happens after there's more swear words. But most of all, if I have to say, throughout those years, there were a lot of deadlines, a lot of them. That is good though, because it allows you productivity as long as you have a good relationship with your supervisor on how to manage them. So that's also why I was mentioning earlier. Okay, it's not just bad things, come on. There's hard work, yes, but I appreciate it. There's collaborators and friends. Actually, funny enough, from the office I was in during my PhD, there has been a chat that just started 2 days ago about meeting again, as a couple of them were visiting London. Acceptances, when you get those papers through, when you get those publications, those moments that are rewarding you a lot, talking in front of people, achievements, travels and experiences, seeing the world is not a detail of that. And more and more and more, I could keep talking and I don't have the time for that, unfortunately. So why secret after? Well, now I can say it has opened my mind to new ideas. I learned, and I'm still learning, a lot from the people I'm working with. That doesn't mean simply people at my level, even other PhD students that I'm supervising. And I increased not only technical skills. At the end, I had a PhD from UCL. They did not kick me out. So yeah, to conclude, again, on the point of being in a group, I started with a mention of the Lord of the Rings. So I kind of got a bit of the fellowship about people I worked with in my PhD. So obviously, as it's my PhD, I had to be Frodo. But other PhD students I worked with, Jeremiah in particular, who is now in Vermont as an academic. Lucky has been working in EY for quite some years. Michael is an American PhD, was at UCL. And I worked with them. So all PhD students, don't worry, Panos didn't die like Boromir. Simply he was a postdoc, so he left at a certain point. Academics, that has been mentors and great people I worked with. Well, Yoon is actually not an academic, but he works in the industry. And well, I had to put Gandalf as my supervisor, main supervisor of the PhD. So he had to be Gandalf. But there's many more people I had the honor and pleasure to work with that I couldn't mention if I just get the fellowship. It's a limited amount of people. Thank you for listening to this. I think we have next our other PhD student, current PhD student. Here they are. Off you go.
Hello, everyone. So I attended actually one of these open PhD events back in 2021. March 2021, and I saw Enrico's presentation. First of all, little did I know he was to become my supervisor. And second, you've done a great job on your slides.
Took quite some time, I gotta say that.
I'm actually rediscovering your journey. So so you can tell how lucky we as PhD students, specifically I am, to have one of my supervisors as Enrico that has had that experience of being a student and then carrying that in your current position. So I'm going to talk a bit about my personal experience. And yeah, I think this, to me, this is the quote that for me represents what a PhD is about. So I'm a third year PhD student, and I went through the route B. So when I applied to the department, I already had a master's. So my background is in social sciences. I actually did an undergrad bachelor's here at UCL in social sciences. And then my master's was in comparative social policy at Oxford. So I was more on the social science side, more policy. And then this sort of opportunity came up this open evening, and I thought, okay, why not? But before that, how did I come even to decide I wanted to do a PhD? Because I generally had two reactions to my friends, the group of people, professors, lecturers I was around when I said I'd like to do a PhD, which was a very positive one. That's great. But the overwhelming majority was this one. Why? The job market's not for PhDs right now. It's long, it's tedious, it's a lot of tears and hard work, and it's just a degree.
Is that really?
No, that's not me. That's no, it's just a common meme on the internet, but but that was pretty much maybe my reaction. I was like, yes, no, maybe. Well, at the end, I took some time to decide and figure out this is really what I wanted to do, continue through the academic route. And then this opportunity came where I got the same presentation you're having, and I thought, wow, I thought I was limited with my background specifically in social sciences, and this had so many more technical opportunities. More crime seemed more technical, something more quantitative to me. But then after Vaz's presentation, after all of this, I thought, well, actually, there's a lot of opportunities for me to research things that I'm interested in. And what I've always been interested in my social background science is the intersection of policy, people, and technology. So I'm just going to quickly outline my 3 top reasons for doing a PhD where we are at now. These are really my 3 top reasons that I take in the journey that I've had. And I appreciate that this might be different for different PhDs within the same department. So this is quite personal to me. The first one is the research environment. The second one is impact stakeholder engagement. And the last one is opportunities to develop. I could go on a full list on reasons to do PhDs here, especially people, connections, and all of that. But really, you meet great people everywhere. So these for me are the tangible reasons that really make security and crime science the place to do a PhD. So first of all, research environment. I told you I came from a more qualitative social science background, and this is pretty much the sort of impression, or at least stereotype, that exists in many departments, many faculties and universities across the world, where the world of academia and academics are divided between the qual and the quant researchers. But as I came on to first do my proposal to get into the PhD and then carry out my PhD, I realized there's much more to that. Actually, this division no longer exists. And a lot of people, been mentioning it from the beginning of this presentation. One big thing of this department is interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity. And it's fascinating to have PhD colleagues who are architects, who are biologists, who are psychologists, sociologists, and all work together to address real-world problems. So the research environment and the ability to develop my quantitative skills alongside my qualitative skills is something that I think is unique, because you have the space to theoretically and practically carry out research on a broad spectrum of levels, whether you're more theoretical, whether you're more skill-based technical, whether we want to do both. So it really feels that it's the department and the environment is welcoming, not just on a social level, it's welcoming on an academic level. It's you, with your skills, you feel welcomed and you feel welcome to be pushed to explore new skills. And that for me was really important. And as for that, we mentioned the secret route. Well, there's a PhD secret society that came from that. And this was designed to combine the academic aspect, but also the social aspect. So the society is created by PhDs for PhDs. And if you just, have a look at our website, there's information on all the different PhDs, our alumni as well, and sort of different programs or even series we've come up with. So yeah, and that's part of the research environment. The second one is impact and engagement, and this has been said as well. And to me, this is probably the most important. Throughout my PhD, I've had, so first of all, I'm the one who's doing the PhD on young people, drugs and social media. Basically, one of my supervisors, Shane, I'm a part of the Dawes Center for Future Crime, came to me and said, you know, there's kids selling drugs and being able to buy drugs through Snapchat. Would you be interested in researching this? And I thought, oh my God, first of all, I didn't know you could do that. And secondly, yes, absolutely. So this is my research subject, very tangible problem. And from that, from a problem that was sort of not investigated, rather new, I came to, within my research, actually develop tangible contacts with key industry stakeholders. So I'm now part of a working group with different governmental organizations, but also directly social media companies and NGOs who are trying to come together to give a solution to this problem. So in my first year, was directly involved through my supervisor's contacts in this working group. Working group is called Drugs on Social Media. So it's so tangible and incredible to be able to really, you have your research and the next day you're talking to the policy person from Instagram or TikTok on how to address the sale of drugs on social media and further harms. I've also contributed just recently actually to public consultation from Ofcom. I also did several calls for evidence for the Drug Misuse Council. So several calls for evidence from governmental bodies really just coming to me and saying, hey, from your research, you're the expert on this. We want to hear from you. And as scary as it may be, again, imposter syndrome, that's what the PhD gives you. And I have been advising Ofcom and the government on this issue. And from that, exactly, it's absolutely rewarding to get, an email, to get a letter from the Ofcom's group director saying, thank you for collaborating. So yeah, it's a lot of, this is, a little part of it, and it's mostly research and work, but this is things that are immensely rewarding and that, you might not get in another place where your research is more theoretical. You don't have that level of real impact that you feel. Another one is collaborating with Enrico. So there was this, we wrote this piece of research on Pokemon Go. So this was more of a side project, not my PhD research, but you have the opportunity to do these side projects too. So we went and published this, tried to get it published. And in the meantime, we said, oh, we should do a disclosure to Niantic, who are the people who, the company who produces Pokemon Go. Well, next thing you know, we actually have a meeting with Niantic through the contacts in the department. So I actually had a Zoom meeting with the headquarters office of Niantic. And it was just a discussion, really. The paper didn't get accepted, got rejected. it's fine. But the part of that is to talk and to have that opportunity to really engage with directly stakeholders. And the final point is the opportunities to grow. So apart from really impact and research, all the extra side things that you're able to do as a PhD student here is incredible. So firstly, obviously publish your research, do some public engagement, get that out, attend conferences, but also PGTA. So you can actually have a teaching role. You can be a postgraduate teaching assistant after your first year. And that has been immensely rewarding for me to be able to see the other side of lectures, the other side of teaching, be able to teach and deliver lectures as well. But also on the side with the society, we have this podcast, so you can get involved into a lot of different things. So last couple of weeks ago, I was recording at UCL Studios, a podcast. Actually, Enrico is also involved in that. So it's really incredible, the different opportunities you get to grow, and that goes hand with the things you mentioned in training. So there's many more other things I could keep on talking, but that's basically it. But happy to have a chat again, and if questions come in later, do ask or get in touch. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Ash. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our lovely speakers. I think we've just gotten to the Q&A section of our event. If I can please have the two speakers maybe to just come a bit more this side, so then they can be seen by the cameras. And we've got lots and lots of disappeared. We've got lots and lots of questions submitted online, so I can kind of start taking you through those, and if you would like to answer, that'd be great.
If anybody in the room has one.
Yeah, that as well. Right, so the first question is, how do you test candidates are ready to move on onto the second year of the PhD?
Okay, so there's all the upgrade phase, basically. So there's some clear criteria set by UCL on this, talking about first full project basically done, and the plan for the next ones, including a literature review. So the idea that you are committed into doing this whole work, there's literally 10 different points on that. Committed to do the work, you have already done a sizable amount of work and have a plan for the remaining ones. Where the sizable amount of work tends to be one empirical chapter and a side of literature review of what has happened. So these are two of the main aspects. It's not the only ones, there's a few other things, but those two are the ones that will take most of the first year basically to be sorted out. Do consider that the supervisors are part of your journey, so they would give you advice on that. I will let Ashley maybe give her point of view on that, but the point of view that they will give you an idea of, okay, maybe let's try and accelerate on this so that you can get ready more easily for the upgrade. But what was your experience? If you still remember.
Yeah, no, the upgrade is a pretty formal and straightforward process, and it's sort of an important milestone where even you get, and that allows you to plan your research and what you want to do. But it's mainly a lot of literature review and going through things. But yeah.
Thank you. Right, the next question. So from someone asking about working full-time during the PhD. How many candidates do you have that work full-time? Can you do this PhD part-time along a full-side job? I work for the Home Office in a relevant role, but I'm unsure whether this is feasible.
I'll pick up that one. We do have students who do the PhD part-time. That is true. The bulk of our students don't do this part-time, because if you're doing route A with the MRes, you pretty much have to be doing the PhD full-time that year. It's very difficult for you to also have a full-time job at the same time. But it's not that we stop people from doing it. We just have to make sure that you fully understand that PhD is a hard thing to do. So trying to do a full-time job and a part-time PhD is going to stress you out at some point.
If I can just add a little bit on that, it's definitely doable. I have students I supervise in this type of situation. So I'm not saying it's not doable. I completely agree though with us. It's quite some work to do. Do consider like case of home office, maybe it's not that type of risk type of situation, but sometimes like do consider in the planning, in the financial planning, whether you may have risks because that job may not be as secure as others. So always like it's important the point on financial planning when being in this type of situation. I mean, UCL gives some tools in order to manage when something unexpected arrives, but it's always better to try and plan ahead.
And sort of related to this, someone else was asking if you can do the PhD like virtually or via distance learning or hybrid as well. Would you mind going into that?
We
too?
unfortunately do not offer at the moment PhD distance learning. So it happens you have those periods like the PhD student is like, yeah, is it a problem if I am X amount of weeks? I mean, it depends on the tier 4 type of situation. That could be something affecting that. But in case not of a tier 4 that doesn't have those restrictions, you may be like, is it a problem if I spend that amount of time that still has some restrictions into my home country, for instance, or whatever else. However, we do not offer distance learning opportunities. It's something that simply has never been the case where UCL has given that type of framework. So it's not something like a decision of us not giving the opportunity.
Thank you. It's very clear. Someone else is asking if they can transfer from another university having already started their PhD. Would they be able to transfer their PhD with us?
We need to look into regulations. I think there is the opportunity, but I need to look into the regulations because I never had that type of situation as DGT. So I've never had to look into that. Buzz, do you have any experience with that?
No, I can't remember anyone who's done that before. I can't imagine that it's not impossible, but it probably means having to completely leave and exit one PhD and completely start with a new PhD here. So it's a matter of paperwork.
Yeah, we need to look into regulations to be sure about that. Actually, if they want to contact me or anything like.
Yeah, for this particular person, I would say so we'll put an email where you can contact us after the event. So do definitely get in touch with us so we can look into this further for you. Right, next question. So someone is mentioning that they already have an MRes in forensic science and work full-time as a CSI. They would like to do a part-time PhD alongside work. Is this something available? And I think we've kind of mentioned about this, yes, but what about people that...
I mean, obviously I cannot give too many details about people that are currently PhDs for personal data about the people, but I can say we have a person that is in the police, has a forensic background, and is also doing a part-time PhD with us in the forensic field as well. So yeah, there's the opportunity. It's not something impossible, as we always say.
I mean, that person's a route to. So do you work at the same time as doing your route to
No,
PhD?
but I was offered the sort of the two options of either doing again a master's or going directly, but what I was told was that if you already have a master's, then you can pretty much straightforward.
Okay.
Lovely. A question here about scholarships. So if someone is applying to like a particular scholarship, do they submit documents in duplicate? And then if you're already applying for a scholarship, should you still contact your supervisors in advance to discuss prior to starting the scholarship application?
I think it's always a good idea to contact the people that you would like to be your supervisors, because no matter whether you apply for a scholarship or not, which scholarship you apply for, ultimately they are the people who that application is going to end up with. So if they already know your name already have expressed an interest in what you want to do, that's always going to be good for you and for your scholarship application. As far as the question about whether or not it has to be done in duplicate, I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect that that's the case, because a UCL Central Scholarship will be slightly different to our own scholarships. So this year, as I said, we don't have scholarships available, so it probably won't be a big issue for you. I do know that on our application forms, you do have to mention the scholarships that you have applied for.
Yeah, and even that means also scholarships from funding bodies, like Leverhulme has some scholarships for people that want to start PhD, for instance. So in that case, you would need to mention that in the form, as Fas was saying.
Lovely. And our last question online, is PhD research qualitative or quantitative, or mixed methods? Like how does that work? Are research proposals favored towards one certain type of research methods? What would you think?
We have a collection of all, basically, we have people that are exclusively qualitative or have been PhDs in our department as only qualitative. People who have been only quantitative. I was basically only quantitative in my PhD. This doesn't mean I am accepting only quantitative people. I'm working with a lot of qualitative stuff. I mean, Ashley can confirm. And we have mixed methods. So the methodology of research is not a problem at all. Obviously, there's some people that might prefer certain type of approaches depending on the field, but that's also why it's important to actually contact the supervisor advice.
Yeah, and actually, this is something that I also give advice to the students when I teach or whatever. Really, you should worry only about the methods answering, how good the methods answer your research question or whatever you're proposing in your proposal. Really, whether it's quant, qual, or mixed, there's no discrimination. It's how well those methods fit and are realistic to answer whatever you're proposing. So I think my experience of constructing a proposal and all the advice I've received was that it should be sort of a coherent proposition to achieve an outcome, regardless of what types of methods, as long as it's coherent and makes sense. So I would say for it to answer the question.
I mean, you talked about this in your slides as well. I mean, with your PhD, would you characterize it as an equal mix or slightly weighted towards one or the other?
I think at this point it's mixed.
Yeah,
I think it's a decent mix, because I started with a bit more qualitative, inductive, scoping, and now I'm doing full-on survey quant. And then the next thing I know, I'm going back to interviews. So yeah, I think it's a mix.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've finished with the online questions. I was just going to say for the people online, please make sure if you do still have questions, you submit them while we're still answering the questions in the room. Thank you. Yes.
So I heard earlier on when you were saying something about social and, you know, that, etc. I'm not sure whether that's accepted or not, but you said it's more scientific. So I wondered, because my interest actually is to look into behavioral psychology and crime and criminality. I suppose I'm interested. So I just wondered if I came from that, obviously, I was listening to what you're saying, I'm thinking more of thematic analysis, qualitative, etc. Do you?
I mean, it's not that we wouldn't do something like that. It's more, when you look through our department profiles of all of our academics, can you find the right academic who you think would support supervising the kind of PhD that you want to do? Now, bear in mind,
I was going to cheat and ask you.
bear in mind that, okay, so it's important for you and for everyone else to bear in mind that we as a department are part of the engineering faculty, which is very, very rare for any criminology department. Most of them are embedded in social science faculties. And one reason for that is because even though, so for instance, our head of department comes from a social science background. So
the previous one is a psychologist.
Exactly. So it's not that we don't have lots of academics who work in that space, but they're always looking to see how they can bring different disciplines in on that problem. So the best bet would be to look at all the profiles, approach the person that you think has got that social science background or that desire to merge social science and other sciences together.
The question is, I did the master's here in organized crime. I want to do the route A. Is it worth me doing it if it's something like
So-
the same as the master's?
There have been people doing that in the past. I think the key is in one of the slides was presented, saying that some of those modules that would overlap with what you have already done can be adapted. I haven't done it, but for instance, intro to cybersec was mandatory for Amherst students. I didn't do it because it was something I already knew, and I've done computer security too, and it's flex. So it's something that can be arranged when choosing the modules on that point. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All of you.
Thank you. But we've got drinks outside, so you can have more longer conversation. Is there anything else that needs to be answered? Because we've reached the end of our time.
Already.
Pretty much.
10 minutes, yeah.
We have no further questions on the
Any more from the floor?
Q&A online.
No? Okay, well, the bulk of our people are online, so you won't be able to eat the lovely food we've got outside or indulge in the drinks. But for those of you who are here, please do join us for a further chat. And thank you for all of those who've logged in today. And we do hope that the message you take away from this is that if you want to do a crime and security PhD, we really are one of the best places, not just in the country, but around the world, that you can do a PhD in these topics. And we encourage you to apply, and we hope to see you in the new year when you enjoy